On the eve of a historic vote in the U.S., Kamala Harris and Donald Trump make their final pitches to voters. Tonight, the last-minute sprint across crucial battleground states.
America is ready for a new way forward.
If we get everybody out and vote, there's not a thing they can do.
How they're both trying to seal the deal and get their supporters just out to vote.
She got my vote.
The biggest thing right now, I think, is the border.
And what to make of those polls. We break down what they could tell us about who has the momentum. Plus, Canada mourns the loss of a giant in the movement for truth and reconciliation.
There have always been those who are deniers of history.
Murray Sinclair's long fight for justice and the lasting impact he leaves behind.
From CBC News, this is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrienne Arsenault.
Thanks for joining us. We are just hours away from polls opening south of the border in what many Americans see as their most important presidential election in decades. It's certainly one of the most contentious, and on this election eve, the race is still anyone's to win. And so Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are pushing hard in key swing states. Harris's rush across Pennsylvania ending tonight with a star-studded rally in Philadelphia. Trump choosing to visit several battleground states on this last day of campaigning: Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and tonight, Michigan. So our reporters are on the ground where the story is unfolding tonight in Washington, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Florida. Now, both Trump and Harris are urging their supporters to get out and vote tomorrow. The margins in this election are incredibly thin, and every ballot matters. Katie Simpson takes us through the final moments of a race like no other.
Donald Trump remaining loyal to his instincts, delivering freewheeling final pitches to voters dripping with grievance and dehumanizing rhetoric.
And we can't let savages come in from other countries and take them out. We can't let these animals come in for other countries.
Hitting 3 different swing states on this final day.
But it's ours to lose. Does that make sense to you? It's ours to lose.
He embraced and celebrated the erratic nature of his rallies.
By the way, the press will say, oh, he rambled. No, that's not rambling. You know what that is? That was genius.
While his running mate leaned into personal insults.
In 2 days, we are going to take out the trash in Washington, D.C., and the trash's name is Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris using her last hours on the campaign trail to focus on Pennsylvania, projecting a newfound confidence.
And I'm telling you guys, we're good. We're good. We're good. We really are.
There is a sense here not of cautious optimism. Instead, Democrats and pundits call it nauseous optimism, a nod to the tight nature of this race. Harris sticking to her disciplined pitch, aimed largely at women who want reproductive rights restored and Americans hungry for a message of unity.
And America is ready for a new way forward where we see our fellow American not as an enemy, but as a neighbor.
Election day bringing an end to a campaign unlike any other.
With the COVID,
President Joe Biden's brutal debate performance sparking a Democratic revolt, forcing him to step aside, paving the way for Harris's unexpected candidacy. And then there was this moment.
Take a look at what happened.
Trump surviving an assassination attempt, promising his supporters he would continue his fight. The volatility of this campaign, symbolic of a divided America. Voters about to choose a path forward, a choice between 2 very different visions for the future.
There is a real concern about additional political violence when you talk with voters. And so at many polling stations across the U.S., there is an increase in security.
So, Katie, I can see you're at Kamala Harris's alma mater, Howard University, where she will speak on election night. What's it like there?
Well, take a look behind me, Adrienne. You can see there's layers of fencing. They brought out the heavy vehicles, the snowplows, to make sure this area remains safe. The Secret Service has taken over. But tempering that fear is a sense of excitement and pride. Howard is a historically Black university. Don't underestimate the significance of that moment in America.
All right, Katie Simpson in Washington, D.C. Thanks, Katie. Now, Americans elect their presidents using the Electoral College system. Candidates are trying to secure as many Electoral College votes as possible. The magic number to win the White House is 270. You will hear that a lot tomorrow. At this point, most of those votes are sure bets, but Pennsylvania's 19 are not. It is the biggest swing state prize of them all. And that is where Richard Madden is tonight. So, Richard, Kamala Harris has now given her last speech of the campaign.
Yeah, she closed her campaign here in Philadelphia, acknowledging to the thousands of supporters who attended here that this could be the closest election in American history, and that what voters in Pennsylvania's vote on could determine who wins the keys to the White House. Now, this has been an event that's been full of symbolism. Behind me here is a Philadelphia Museum of Art. It's really known in pop culture as those famous steps Rocky, the boxer, would run up to when you played that theme music. Rocky, of course, was this underdog who became a champion, and Harris used that metaphor to rally her supporters tonight. Take a listen.
Here at these famous steps, a tribute to those who start as the underdog and climb to victory. So, America, it comes down to this. One more day, just one more day in the most consequential election of our lifetime, and the momentum is on our side.
And you heard that. Momentum is on our side, she says. I've been speaking to campaign officials. They are expressing cautious optimism, but anxiety. They are saying that their internal data shows that independents are drifting their way. They're encouraged by turnout by women, but they're also anxious. There's anxiety because this is just data. A lot of this will depend on turnout tomorrow, voting day. And this is where, of course, they're all anxiously holding their breath. Before Harris spoke tonight, she had backup and support by a star-studded cast of celebrities: Oprah Winfrey, Lady Gaga, Ricky Martin, John Bon Jovi performed via live stream, all endorsing the vice president, all urging supporters to get out the vote, make a plan if they haven't voted already, and ensure that their votes are heard on voting day, because this, as the vice president says, will be a very tight race.
And Richard, as she built up the energy, the optimism you spoke of, she also obviously took aim at her opponent.
Yeah, she sure did. Close her campaign, her speech, really tried to draw that final contrast between her campaign and Donald Trump's campaign. She said when they launched this, her campaign 107 days ago. Let's just pause and think about this. 107 days ago, she had to put together a campaign, put together a team, choose a running mate, and then, of course, get her message across to voters. She said that she tried to create a message of change versus a message of going in the past. She took aim at Donald Trump in her closing speech. Take a listen.
And we have an opportunity in this election to finally turn the page on a decade of politics that has been driven by fear and division. We are done with that. We're done. We're exhausted with it.
So tomorrow, of course, voting day. In just a few hours, the polls will open. Vice President Harris once again urging supporters to get out that vote. Once again saying what happens in Pennsylvania will likely determine the outcome of this historic election.
All right, Richard Madden in Pennsylvania. Thank you. In Michigan, another key battleground state, Harris and Trump have campaigned hard on the ground. They're both in pursuit of the 15 electoral votes up for grabs. Republicans and Democrats traded wins there in 2016 and 2020, respectively. Susan Ormiston is in Michigan tonight, where Trump is finishing his campaign with a final rally in Grand Rapids.
Adrian, it started to rain here in Grand Rapids, and we are still waiting to hear from Donald Trump in this final rally of this campaign. Over 10,000 people are inside this arena behind me. They've been in there for hours. He's quite late. They're still in their seats, chanting Trump, Trump, and Vance, Vance, and waiting to hear his last words before voting starts. Well, this morning here in Michigan and across this country. Trump has effectively been campaigning for presidency for about 9 years, including his 4 years in the White House. And he's coming back here to deliver his final words and encourage people to get out and vote, to wring out every vote he can from his supporters who have not strayed far in those 9 years.
So, win or lose, this is Trump's last rally he'll ever do, the way I looked at it. And I really felt like it was a magical night full of great energy.
The biggest thing right now, I think, is the border. And I'm sure some of those folks are coming up to Canada as well. And no country is a country without a border.
I think that he's going to be running a little bit late. Sometimes he does that. And I think it's going to be really cool to be with him on Election Day.
You think he'll run over at midnight?
I think so. I think even if he's a little bit close, I think he'll stay just for us.
But Michigan, like all the 7 battleground states, is deeply divided. Less than a point separating Harris and Trump, and a perceived gender gap seems real here.
She brings about the change that we need. She brings about the advancement that we need so that we become a better people, a better nation.
We spoke to many women, one outside her home in the suburbs near Detroit.
It's very scary here, and we're kind of a house divided. I have 2 younger daughters. My husband, not so sure. 3 of us are trying to convince him to vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. But I think for him, it's more about, I'm just going to say it, money. And Trump has this big, platform, and he's a businessman. He can make money and get this country right. So I scratch my head at that one.
Adrian, in the most recent polling, there was less than 1 percentage point dividing Trump and Harris in Michigan, one of the so-called blue states formerly that Biden won back last election. So Trump is telling his voters within this hour that he is here to take on the presidency the next time, to win here again. And that's the message he'll deliver to the people inside. We expect him to begin speaking within this hour. Adrian.
All right, thank you, Susan. Lots of buzz now about one pollster's finding that Iowa could switch from Republican red to blue. Our panel guides us through that in just 20 minutes. And we'll have special coverage on election night. Join me and Ian tomorrow as the votes are counted. You can catch us at 8 p.m. Eastern wherever you watch CBC News. Now, Canada is remembering the life and legacy tonight of Murray Sinclair. A judge, senator, and Indigenous activist, Sinclair will perhaps best be remembered for leading the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, a years-long journey that brought him face-to-face with thousands of residential school survivors across the country. Cameron McIntosh now on how his work paved the way for reconciliation by shedding light on a painful past Canada still grapples with.
There have always been those who are deniers of history.
The Honourable Justice Murray Sinclair laid the path for reconciliation in Canada while forcing the country to confront a history he knew many would find hard to accept.
What took place in residential schools amounts to nothing short of cultural genocide.
The 94 calls to action he led remain a path forward.
He's the person that we've turned to when things have been really, really difficult.
Ry Morin worked closely with Sinclair as the first director of the National Centre for Truth and Reconciliation.
We have lost, in some ways, a figure that we've relied upon to be the moral consciousness of Canada.
Sinclair was Manitoba's first Indigenous judge. An Anishinaabe from Peguis First Nation, he knew racial prejudice firsthand. As a young lawyer, he was often mistaken by police and judges for the accused.
He grabbed me by the arm and was going to lead me back to the cells, because he assumed the white guy was the lawyer.
In 1990, Sinclair co-led a tension-filled inquiry into racism in Manitoba's justice system. He also led an inquest into the deaths of 12 infants in pediatric care in Manitoba before rising to Queen's Bench. But the 2008 Truth and Reconciliation Commission is where Sinclair cast the most light, spending 6 years listening to residential school survivors, including Adeline Weber.
All of those commissioners really had to, at the end of each day, probably do a lot of soul searching.
The 94 calls to action led to some progress, including a papal apology. But Sinclair acknowledged reconciliation would take generations.
The public still largely struggles with the question of what can we do about it.
Shortly after the TRC, he served as an independent senator for nearly 5 years.
His commitment to Indigenous peoples and to all Canadians was absolutely extraordinary.
The Prime Minister calling him a giant, while at the Manitoba legislature, where a sacred fire now burns, Manitoba's Anishinaabe Premier called Sinclair a mentor.
The example he showed for us is that no matter the scale of the challenge that we experience, that we can always respond with love.
In a statement, Sinclair's 5 children said he was always known as an exceptional listener who treated everyone with dignity and respect. We know that stories of his kindness, generosity, and fairness will circulate for generations to come. In one of his last public appearances, Sinclair was honored at a Winnipeg Jets hockey game, cheered as an elder and a statesman. For all the stories of pain, despair, and racism Sinclair encountered, he always remained an optimist.
As long as we have that belief in the need to improve the future, then the future will be improved.
Change he acknowledged would be slow, but remained confident is inevitable. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
And music legend Quincy Jones, the genius behind some of the most memorable hits in pop music, has died. Jones produced that song from the best-selling album ever, Michael Jackson's Thriller. Through his work with Michael Jackson and other greats, including Ray Charles, Frank Sinatra, Quincy Jones helped reshape the American musical landscape. He won more than 24 Grammys, but would later venture beyond music into film and television production. He was 91. Well, violent weekend clashes in Ontario and BC have drawn widespread condemnation. They happened at the sites of Hindu and Sikh places of worship. Jamie Strachan on why these local incidents drew international attention.
Sunday at a Hindu temple in Brampton, just outside of Toronto, violence after demonstrators arrived holding banners in support of Khalistan, a proposed independent Sikh homeland in northern India. The protest happened as Indian consular officials were inside helping people with pension documents, though protesters say those officials gather information about the Sikh community.
They start hitting those people. They went inside the gate, and you can see in the video they were hitting with a stick.
Hours later, protesters gathered outside of a nearby Sikh place of worship, some waving Indian flags.
They want to take control of the gurdwara and they want to harm worshippers.
3 people were arrested, though CBC News is not confirmed from which protest. And an off-duty police officer was suspended after he participated in the Hindu temple protest. In Surrey, British Columbia, similar demonstrations turned violent. Several people were arrested.
This is now sort of breaking out into fights and violence and attacks that are physical at these places of worship, whereas before it seemed to be acts of vandalism that happened.
That is just wrong.
In Canada, the violence was condemned at all political levels.
It should not be happening where people are attending to pray or attending to find peace.
On X, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau called the violence unacceptable. But these local incidents were also noticed in India. Its prime minister condemned what he called a deliberate attack on a Hindu temple, adding that he expects the Canadian government to ensure justice and uphold the rule of law. Relations between the two countries are tense after Ottawa accused India of orchestrating attacks on Sikh activists on Canadian soil, including murder. India has denied the allegations. Meanwhile, in Brampton, a heightened police presence continues. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
A massive fight is brewing over the government's plan to cap oil and gas emissions.
This is a vendetta. Like, he has a deranged vendetta against Alberta.
What the feds want and why Alberta's already pushing back. Plus, election night in the U.S. is nearly upon us, and police have a message for those planning to incite violence.
F around and find out. We do have the cuffs, we do have the jail cells.
The work being done to keep voters safe. We're back in 2. More than 700 port foremen in British Columbia have been locked out in a labor dispute now threatening millions of dollars a day in trade. The lockout comes after the workers' union rejected the company's latest offer and refused to withdraw a strike notice. Despite months of negotiations, they have failed to reach a deal. Well, there's anger tonight in Alberta over a federal plan to cap greenhouse gas emissions in the oil and gas sector. Ottawa says it's needed to fight climate change. Alberta's premier says it would be a disaster. Madeleine Cummings on the proposal and the reaction.
We're the only large oil and gas producer in the world to do this.
Ottawa says new draft regulations are designed to cut greenhouse gas emissions from the production of oil and gas to 35% below 2019 levels, starting in 2030.
So we're asking the oil and gas sector to invest their record profits into pollution-cutting projects that can create and keep good jobs.
The government says it needs to act urgently to avoid the most severe effects of climate change. But energy company Cenovus calls it yet another punitive policy that could put Canadian companies at a competitive disadvantage. The Canadian Association of Petroleum Producers says the cap would deter investment and have serious negative consequences for the economy. Alberta's premier says Ottawa's timeline is too aggressive. Making references to the environment minister, she says it would be an economic disaster for Alberta.
This is a vendetta. Like, he has a deranged vendetta against Alberta. It's very obvious.
Danielle Smith says her government will fight the emissions cap in court. It's already fighting on the PR front with a $7 million ad campaign.
We say let common sense prevail. Tell the feds at scrapthecap.ca.
She doesn't have to convince the federal Conservatives, who have said the cap will kill jobs and raise the cost of energy. Environmental groups say the regulations target the country's biggest source of greenhouse gas pollution.
This is a really important step to start getting this crucial piece of policy implemented so we can see emissions come down.
The federal government says it will keep consulting on the draft regulations before publishing a final version next year. Madeleine Cummings, CBC News, Edmonton.
Well, security is being enhanced across the U.S. to make sure polling stations are prepared for whatever comes their way.
We now have bulletproof glass on the front of our building. We have more cameras. We have a panic button.
The extensive steps being taken to secure Election Day. And after weeks of polling with razor-thin margins, are there hidden nuggets within the data?
The race is so close, both sides are kind of looking for anything to hang on to.
What are panels expecting when results start coming in? The National breaks down stories shaping our world. Next.
I will be a president for all Americans.
Make America great again. That's what we're going to do.
Kamala Harris and Donald Trump making their last campaign push today. Both candidates in the U.S. presidential election made many stops to reach voters in a race that is still stubbornly thin, and one we may not know the results of until well after tomorrow's polls close. And as America votes, the prospect of violence isn't far from people's minds in a campaign that's already seen 2 assassination attempts. Chris Reyes now with how cities across the country are ramping up security, including at the polling stations.
This is what it takes to pick a president in America in 2024. Barricades, boarded up windows, and more.
We now have bulletproof glass on the front of our building. We have more cameras. We have a panic button.
In Washington, where Kamala Harris will be on election night, there are reinforcements for every government building, including her residence. The FBI has also set up a central command center to respond to any threats to election security. And the National Guard has been activated.
It is routine practice for the DoD to authorize the D.C. National Guard to support or augment security for large-scale events in the district.
So that's Mar-a-Lago in the distance, and this is as close as we can get. It gives you a sense of the thick security perimeter around the property.
Mar-a-Lago is where Donald Trump will be watching election night results. Getting near the convention center where his campaign is holding a watch party will be just as hard. From the city's mayor, this warning.
If you are thinking about or planning on coming to our great city to cause problems, don't do it. It won't end well for you.
Other officials across the country are hitting the same tone.
Anybody who thinks it's time to play militia, F around and find out. Anybody who thinks it's time to insult, to deride, to mistreat, to threaten people, F around and find out. We do have the cuffs, we do have the jail cells.
If there is criminal behavior, we will be making arrests. We are prepared for that.
You know, those warnings as red hot as the state of politics in this country, contentious, polarized, and at times violent.
And Chris, where you are in West Palm Beach will be especially tight security-wise, given, of course, you're talking about the area of Trump headquarters.
Absolutely. You know, Donald Trump is expected to land here in the very early hours of Tuesday. He'll vote here. He'll be at Mar-a-Lago. So expect the security to intensify wherever he goes. And remember, just in September, the second attempted assassination against him happened here in West Palm Beach. So they're not taking any chances. We heard from the sheriff and the mayor. They're promising increased police presence everywhere in this city with the resources to match, including correctional buses for mass arrests.
All right, Chris Reyes in West Palm Beach, Florida. After weeks of polls and speculation, it's time now to dig deeper into what all that data could mean come election time. This is the breakdown. Kamala Harris's close friend recalls her years as a schoolgirl in Montreal.
She put together like a little petition for the kids to be allowed to play in the front yard.
But first, red state surprise. A respected pollster puts Harris ahead in Iowa.
So that by itself was a shock.
Fake poll. Hey, think of it. Right before the election.
She says more women and young people now plan to vote. Our Election Eve panel tackles that and other last-minute wildcards. We're joined by Kaylee Rogers from the New York Times, used to be with CBC, Tia Mitchell from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and Chris Cillizza, formerly with CNN. So let's get into it. Tia, the polls have been largely very tight, and then there was this surprise poll this weekend out of Iowa, putting Kamala Harris ahead. Democrats just leapt on it as evidence something is happening. Why does this one poll matter?
Well, I think the one poll matters because for Democrats, it was something tangible for them to hold on to that indicates a Harris surge. Even if the poll doesn't turn out to predict the actual outcome in Iowa, what it's an indicator of is that things are starting to break Harris's way, that women voters and particularly older female voters are coming out for Harris in ways that could really shift an election in her favor in some of the battleground states. That's how people are reading this Iowa poll.
And Chris, I suppose older female voters, if you're thinking 65 plus, were teenagers when Roe v. Wade first happened. Are you hearing what Tia is, that Democrats are seeing this as potentially a countrywide trend?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's looking for even the littlest bit of momentum because the race is so close. I think we will either look back and say, well, that was a canary in a coal mine. If Kamala Harris winds up winning Wisconsin or Michigan and it's fueled by older voters, older female voters, excuse me, and Roe is a big issue, or, well, that was an outlier and Donald Trump won Iowa and it didn't tell us all that much. I mean, that's the thing. I wish I could be more definitive. I do think Kamala Harris, should she win, the Dobbs decision will be critical to that, and female voters who have made up a majority of the vote since 1984 in presidential races will be at the center of it.
So, Kaylee, you have done like a ton of work about polling, and I'm curious what's different about polling this time. The last two cycles of polls were broadly wrong, I think, but I don't remember seeing as many as what we're seeing now. What is happening?
Well, I think a lot of people remember 2016 as being a big polling miss year. And actually, the national level polls were pretty close that year. They were only off by about 2 points. If you remember, Clinton won the popular vote that year, but she lost the election, of course. And a big part of that was not accounting for education level in the samples. So they fixed that in 2020, but then something else went wrong. And pollsters actually aren't totally sure what went wrong in 2020. Part of it might have just had to do with the pandemic and all of the chaos that ensued from that and all the differences to voting. But this year, no, they've continued to make some adjustments. And there is some hope that it's a little more accurate this year, especially when you look at the 2022 polls from that midterm year. Those were some of the most accurate we've had in decades. So there is a chance that this year will be a little bit better, but we're not going to know until it's all said and done. Just
to pick up something you said there are polls, but then there are partisan polls, right? So I think unless I'm mistaken, we're seeing a surge in polling that are, very clearly Republican polls, for example. What is the point of those? Is it to get the numbers right, or is it to maybe create a narrative?
Well, I mean, surge is a relative term. There's way more nonpartisan and independent polls out there in the ecosystem. And so as a result, those polling averages aren't really getting bent one way or the other. And good aggregators like the New York Times take into account if it's a partisan pollster and, weight it accordingly. But we have seen, over the last couple of weeks, a few extra polls from certain firms that either are known to be affiliated with the Republican Party, sponsored by Republican politicians, or else just kind of have leaned that way over time. It's sort of caused an uproar. And I think it is more so about the fact that the race is so close. Both sides are kind of looking for anything to hang on to. So Republicans are looking at those polls and seeing, see, Trump's got momentum. He's surging ahead. He's going to win this thing. Democrats are looking at it and saying, see, all the polls are skewed. They're flooding the zone. In reality, Harris is going to win. And it's getting covered by these skewed polls. The reality is it's a really close race, and unfortunately that's not very satisfying for people, but that's the truth.
I mean, the old chestnut, the only poll that matters is the one on Election Day. The state that you're in, Tia, Georgia, this swing state that could get results out early, the one Donald Trump famously maintained falsely that he really won last time. What strikes you about what's happening in Georgia right now?
Well, we know that there's been record early voting turnout, but it's hard to read into that. Again, we still expect Georgia to be close. What we don't know is how many of those people who voted early would have had voted on Election Day in the past. There are a lot of new voters. Democrats think that the new voters skew towards them. They think that the imbalance thus far of more women than men voting skews well towards them. But again, some of that could be rebalanced on Election Day. There's still so much we don't know about what the electorate will look like when all is said and done. But we do think Georgia is going to be close. I still, I maintain that Trump could win, Harris could win, but either way, it's going to be close.
Chris, does anything surprise you at this late stage?
I always like to retain the possibility of being surprised. I will say, and this isn't surprising, but I think if he does lose, Donald Trump will look back on sort of from last Sunday, the Madison Square Garden rally, to his campaign event in Green Bay, Wisconsin, where he said, "I'm going to protect women whether they want me to or not," to the Liz Cheney controversy over, she should have 9 guns pointed in her face, even to his rallies more recently in the last 48 hours, where he's just sort of not been on message at all. He's never really that on message, but at the end, when undecided voters are actually paying attention, is when you want to drive home that message. I have not heard enough from him, candidly, about, look, Kamala Harris was the vice president for 3.5 years. What has she done? I've heard a lot of personal stuff, personal attacks, stuff about the media, stuff about the 2020 election. I'm not sure undecided voters care about that. So if he does lose, I think that loss will be laid directly at his feet in his campaign over the last 9 or 10 days.
All right, 20 seconds for each of you, Kaylee and Tia. One thing you're watching for tomorrow. Kaylee, start with you.
Oh, one thing, Pennsylvania, all eyes are on that state to see how things break down, because I think that that's really going to be the pivot point state in all of this. And I think, sorry, really quickly, another thing I'm curious about is whether this is actually going to end up with tight results or not. There's, within the polling error, a margin of polling error, a chance for either candidate to have a pretty decisive victory and get all the swing states. So I'm curious if that might happen for one or the other.
We just don't know. Tia, one last thought to you.
I guess, in Georgia, again, are men able to catch up? Some of the metro Atlanta counties, rural Georgia said they were having better turnout. Will the metro Atlanta counties that we know are Democratic counties, will they catch up on Election Day? I'll just be looking to really see, after all is said and done on Election Day, what it could tell us about the demographics of Georgia voters and how that could indicate the final result.
What an interesting thing awaits everyone. All right, Kaylee Rogers, Tia Mitchell, Chris Cillizza, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have journalists deployed across the U.S. to bring you results and reaction on election night. Here's a quick look at who'll be keeping you plugged in minute by minute.
I'm Katie Simpson, and I'm a Washington correspondent with CBC News.
I'm Chris Reyes, a correspondent for CBC News based in New York. We are in West Palm Beach.
Hey folks, Richard Madden here in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
I'm Ellen Morrow in Washington. In so many ways, this presidential election campaign has been unprecedented.
I'm Katie Nicholson in Yancey County, North Carolina. This was one of 25 counties that were severely impacted by Helene about 5 weeks ago.
I'm Tom Perry in West Palm Beach, Florida. This is Donald Trump's backyard. His home at Mar-a-Lago is just a stone's throw from here.
I'm Ashley Burke at Howard University in Washington, D.C. This is where Vice President Kamala Harris is spending election night and hoping to make history.
I'm Susan Ormiston in Michigan, one of the 3 so-called blue wall states. The race is tight here.
Hey, I'm Paul Hunter, senior correspondent for CBC News here in Washington, D.C., the epicenter of the battle for the White House. But on election night, I won't be here. Instead, I'll be in studio in Toronto with Adrian Arsenault and others, dissecting the numbers as they come in and talking about the implications for the U.S., for Canada, and beyond, whichever candidate wins.
The race is neck and neck, and it all comes down to Tuesday when Americans decide who they want to take power in the White House there behind me.
Whoever wins here will likely win the keys to the White House.
We're on the ground, keeping an eye on everything.
You can catch all of the action in North Carolina right here.
Stay with CBC News. We'll have special coverage on election night and heading into the next day. Catch us wherever you catch CBC News.
And Americans are voting, but what they decide matters here, too. Our CBC News election special starts at 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll stay on it for you in the field and right here, hour after hour after hour, to keep you on top of every twist and turn. Well, a Canadian with close ties to Kamala Harris opens up about their bond and how it factored into the campaign.
It makes me feel good to know that I affected her life just as much as she affected my life.
Wanda Kagan's unique perspective into Harris's rise to prominence. Kamala Harris helped her through crisis when they were friends in Montreal.
You see, when I was in high school, I started to notice something about my best friend Wanda.
I'm the Wanda that Kamala talks about.
Now, Wanda Kagan talks with us about the woman running for president.
She always was a fighter. She fights for what she believes in.
I spoke with Wanda Kagan a few days ago for insight into the woman who could very well be the first female president of the United States. Wanda Kagan and Kamala Harris were friends in high school in Montreal. And even though on the trail, Kamala Harris almost never talks about Canada specifically, she talks about Wanda a lot.
You see, when I was in high school, I started to notice something about my best friend Wanda.
As a reminder, here's what she said at the Democratic National Convention in August.
She confided in me that she was being sexually abused by her stepfather. This is one of the reasons I became a prosecutor, to protect people like Wanda.
I'm the Wanda that Kamala talks about.
I'm going to take a big leap here that you're going to have an excellent seat on election night.
I'm going to be with my family on election night, but I am going to have a good seat, yes.
You know, one of the things that's occurred to me is that what happened to you as a kid, right, was terrible, and it's private. But now it's part of the origin story of your great friend, Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Is it awkward that people know what happened to you? Is that a hard thing to realize is out there?
Well, I decided over 4 years ago to share my story. And so I've had time to process it and share it slowly with the world before it became really known to the world. So hearing her up there talking on the stage to everyone, it makes me feel good to be a part of her journey and to know that I affected her life just as much as she affected my life.
As the story goes, for a time after high school, these two friends lost each other and didn't connect again until Kamala Harris appeared on Oprah in 2005.
Superstar prosecutor Kamala Harris made history when she was elected California's first African-American female district attorney.
Kagan heard about the appearance, reached out, and Harris reached back. Old pals connected again and again. And as Harris rose, out came the questions about whether her destiny was always clear. What did you think your pal wanted to do when she grew up, when you were kids?
I always envisioned her that she would be a lawyer.
What did you see that told you, oh yeah, she's heading into law?
I think because she always was a fighter. Like, you know, they lived in an apartment building that had a courtyard, and the landlord wouldn't let them play in the front yard. And so she put together like a little petition, for the kids to be allowed to play in the front yard. Yeah.
How old would she have been then?
12.
Do you think kids still play in that courtyard?
100%.
I hope that landlord framed that letter.
Yeah.
The stories these two have together are both hard and a ton of fun. By now, you've likely seen Kamala Harris busting a move or two. That is also a Montreal moment, it seems. She and Kagan started a dance troupe called the Midnight Magic. How do you think Kamala Harris is holding up right now?
Well, when I watch her on the campaign trail, especially like the last week, it's very, very joyful. Everybody's feeling the energy. But yeah, for me, I watch it in a different way. I see deeper than that. It's, I'm sure, extremely stressful.
This is what democracy looks like.
What do you see that somebody like me might not see?
I don't think anyone else could see it, but just going from rally to rally to rally, you know, I'm like, it takes a lot of strength and a lot of energy.
She has told people in the past that she is a world-class swearer, that she has some exquisite swear words. Do you feel that bursting through the screen? Do you feel like there are times where you look at her and think, I know what you want to say?
I hear it bursting through the screen silently.
What's making you nervous?
Just the overall outcome, and I think just feeling a little bit of my friend's energy, like in what she might be feeling.
She's dumb as a rock. She's dumb as...
In terms of the personal attacks that have been launched against her, how is she handling that, and how are you handling that?
It is extremely hurtful to hear things, especially things that attack a person's character and who they are, and especially for someone like me who really knows the true person that she is, has known her for all these years and known that she's always been a fighter and fights for what she believes in.
Well, the courtyard made her tough, though, eh?
Yeah.
Wanda, thank you very much. You have a huge few days ahead of you. We're sending you the best, okay?
Thank you so much for having me. Bye-bye.
We are looking back tonight at the life of Murray Sinclair, a man who championed human rights.
This nation must never forget what it once did to its most vulnerable people.
More from Murray Sinclair in his own words, next. Before we go, we must revisit a massive loss for Canada tonight, the death of Murray Sinclair. From his role as a senator to leading the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, Murray Sinclair was a groundbreaker in so many ways. And tonight, we look back at his life in his own words, beginning with one of his last public appearances.
He served as Manitoba's first Indigenous judge, a member of the Canadian Senate, and chair of Canada's Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Please welcome His Honor, Justice Murray Sinclair.
When I was growing up, my perception of the world was that none of this was available to us, that we were not part of this.
The simple fact is that the educational systems of this country are failing Aboriginal children.
When I got invited to conferences to address the judges or address lawyers, it was always talk about Aboriginal justice issues. And after a while, it got a little weary. But, you know, I began to realize that I do it well, and it's important to do it.
And this nation must never forget what it once did to its most vulnerable people.
The moment that you leave this earth and your spirit goes back to the Creator makes you turn around and look back at everything that you have done.
As someone who had the privilege of speaking with Murray Sinclair many times over the years. I owe him a huge thank you for his grace and his patience and his insight to both Murray Sinclair and his family. From all of us here at The National, thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to The National's YouTube channel. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Take care.